Imagine a family that had more money than the Kennedys could ever dream of, and yet, they seem to court tragedy and scandal at breakneck speed. In this video, we'll take you on a roller coaster journey through the monumental ups and downs, the unending valleys and peaks, and the catastrophic triumphs and losses in the life and times of the one-time richest man in the world and his heirs, the Gettys. Our story begins back in 1855, under the shadowed skies of Maryland, where George Getty was born. Little did anyone know that this was the beginning of a family destined for immense power and wealth, but not without a hefty cost. George's childhood was marked by hardship, losing his father at just 6 years old. But a helping hand from his uncle Joseph set him on a path that eventually led him to Ohio Northern University, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Science in 1879. George's journey took him through the University of Michigan Law School, and he finally settled in Minneapolis, specializing in insurance and corporate law. However, the year 1882 had something darker in store for him. A call he couldn't resist: the oil industry. It wasn't until 1904 that George fully embraced this new path, and it marked a rebellious turn in his life. He left behind a thriving law career and ventured into the unpredictable world of the oil trade in Oklahoma. His uncanny ability to spot potential oil-rich landscapes and negotiate favorable drilling rights propelled him to rapid success. As the story goes on, George Getty's life at this point might have resembled Daniel Day-Lewis's character in There Will Be Blood. A shrewd and ruthless oil man whose ability to seize opportunities was both admirable and ominous. His gamble with the Minnehaha Oil Company paid off in immense wealth, leading to the family's relocation to Los Angeles in 1906, a city teeming with business prospects and newfound reputation as an oil town. Soon after, George's son, Jean Paul Getty, or J. Paul, was born in 1892 in Minneapolis. J. Paul seemed to be cut from the same cloth as his father, George, with an intense obsession for business. Even as a child, he displayed an extraordinary focus and an insatiable curiosity. The family sent J. Paul to the University of California, Berkeley, and later to Oxford, preparing him for his inevitable entry into the family oil business. But during J. Paul's academic years, the Getty family's oil endeavors were marked by dynamic fluctuations between booming prosperity and unpredictable market challenges. By 1916, tension had emerged between George and J. Paul. George was increasingly uneasy about J. Paul's lavish lifestyle, extravagant spending, and penchant for the high life, which seemed at odds with the weighty responsibilities that came with the family's growing business. George's mysterious death in 1930 left the keys to the Getty empire in the hands of his widow, Sarah. J. Paul became the president, but George had put a slight legal stranglehold on his son's direct rule to power. Little did George know that his son, J. Paul, would rise to unparalleled heights, ultimately becoming the world's richest man at one point. But this glittering rise came at an equally dazzling cost. If George found himself at odds with his own offspring, J. Paul would soon discover that the complexities with his children would make his father's concerns seem trivial. Over the next few years, a really interesting story unfolded as J. Paul Getty took charge of the family's finances. But the 1930s was a rocky time, not just for the Gettys, but for the whole world. The Great Depression was causing a lot of problems, wrecking businesses and making everything feel uncertain. In the midst of this financial storm, J. Paul Getty and his mother Sarah did something significant in 1934. They created a trust with both of them as trustees. What was their goal? To protect their corporate assets and make sure they stayed intact. This trust marked the start of a long and complicated battle for control. Over the years, J. Paul Getty made small but powerful moves to gather more power. These financial moves were far from simple, involving lots of debt and tough negotiations that went on for years. He slowly acquired shares and gathered the voting power he needed to shape the future of the family business. It was a slow and steady takeover. Sarah Getty, who had initially been in charge of the family's legacy, saw her control gradually slip away. She realized that her son was very ambitious and had a strong grip on the family's assets, and she eventually had to step back. J. Paul Getty took control, and Sarah was left with an annuity, but no say in what happened with the family's empire. Under J. Paul's guidance, the family's wealth reached incredible heights. In 1949, he took a bold risk by investing $95 million, which would be around $116 million today, in the desolate lands of the Saudi-Kuwaiti border, a place where people didn't even believe there was oil. With a 60-year concession in hand, J. Paul played a waiting game that lasted 4 long years and cost an additional $30 million. Finally, in 1953, the Wafra area yielded its dark treasure. It wasn't just oil, it was a confirmation of J. Paul's nearly reckless foresight. This discovery didn't just make the family richer, it turned J. Paul into one of the wealthiest people in America and the world. As his geologists turned barren land into sources of wealth, it was clear that each success also brought unimaginable risks for the family name and the next generation. 6 years later, on July 27, 1959, Eileen Getty was born in San Francisco as J. Paul Getty's granddaughter and Gordon Getty's daughter. You might think her life would be all about luxury, but Gordon had a complicated relationship with his own father, J. Paul Getty, which definitely had an impact on his children, including Eileen. Gordon did have access to fine arts and culture because of the family's wealth, but his relationship with J. Paul was often strained, filled with family duties, expectations, and the weight of a complicated legacy. Amidst his personal struggles, J. Paul Getty was also dealing with a heartbreaking family drama involving his son, J. Paul Getty Jr. Despite growing up in luxury, Jr. faced difficulties that didn't align with the glamorous world around him. He battled depression and fell into heroin addiction, leading to multiple stays in rehabilitation centers. These tragic events in the life of the world's richest man showed the emotional distance and complexities of being a Getty, going beyond their mansions and boardrooms, adding to their complex public image. Despite the sadness and heartache, the next generations of Gettys would eventually bounce back and help restore the family name. However, there were more shocking revelations to come. In 1971, the unveiling of the legendary Getty Museum marked the family's enormous influence. The museum drew nearly 2 million visitors each year, serving as a haven of art. However, it also represented the family's accumulated wealth. In 1976, J. Paul Getty's passing created a complex situation with financial and emotional intricacies. While most of his empire went into the Getty Trust, some was given to his children, setting the stage for family disputes. In 1984, Gordon Getty was exposed as leading a double life, having 2 families, sparking legal battles over name changes and inheritances. The Getty Oil Texaco merger in 1986 marked a significant change, securing the family's financial future but breaking ties to the oil industry, a cornerstone of their identity. In 1999, J. Paul Getty III passed away at the age of 54, marking the end of a tragic life that included a 1973 kidnapping. The following decades were marked by addiction and mental suffering. Mark Getty, born in 1960, pursued an academic career in philosophy and politics, and transformed the visual media landscape with Getty Images, dominating the stock photography market. In 1992, Nats Getty entered the family scene as a model, designer, and advocate for LGBTQ rights. Nats's marriage to Gigi challenged societal norms, ushering in a new era for the Getty family. In 2018, the television series Trust, directed by Danny Boyle, explored the early years of the Getty family, focusing on their tumultuous relationships, and that's when most of us got to know about them in detail. All in all, as we enter 2024 very soon, the Getty family stands at a crossroads, facing challenges and media attention. Their ability to maintain a lasting legacy in philanthropy and business will be tested in the years to come. Let's see what happens. What do you think? Also, if you are a big old money fan like us, don't forget to watch our latest video on how war and gunpowder made the DuPont family insanely wealthy. See you on the other side. Take care.